Hey, what's up, card fighters? Got another CHRONOJET mirror here set up for you. So, the day that I did take CHRONOJET to versus. My first round was against Tamayura, and then round two CHRONOJET, round three CHRONOJET, round four CHRONOJET. So, it was basically like there was like five CHRONOJETs in the room, I believe, out of nine players. Yeah, nine players. Because I know there was like some regulars that just couldn't make it that day because of other obligations, which we understand. We all have lives outside of this card game, and we can't appear at locals. Every night. Unfortunately, I know I try my damnedest to appear to locals every night. I have to. The only way I could do so is like doing so after work. So I kind of have to like wake up earlier, set up all my things earlier in the morning to achieve this. But it's worth it to me personally, just because I am a content creator and locals content is my bread and butter on this channel. But getting into it, I do believe I go first here. Yeah, cause yeah, I was winning the dice roll before that round, which was round three. I just kept winning the dice roll and like electing to go first, cause in my head, if you win the dice roll, you always go first. At least that's the way Vanguard has always been for me. Which was what was actually funny was we were giving my opponent, shout outs to Wally, so much shit because like he had cool stuff games sleeves on, but like we were in versus games in Oviedo, Florida. So like we were like to like the shop manager on duty at the time, like, hey man, does he get a DQ because he has cool stuff sleeves on? And he just kind of like gave him the look. He just gave Wally a look. He's like, come on, man, are you serious? But it was all in good fun. It was all in good fun. So he's gonna draw one off going second here, then draw another one here off the crest. Swing for 8 here with Gunga Ram. We do elect to take it. We damage check a CHRONOJET, and I'm gonna guard for a 15 here, which he checks a Steam Breath Dragon. Pitching, what is that? A Steam Breath for Stride here? Call down a GG here, Soul Blasting 2/2, draws that extra card. And we call down a Gunga Ram here, Soul Charging 1, Soul Charging a crit, unfortunately. Call down another Gunga Ram, Soul Charging another crit, which was hilarious, low-key. We're swinging 8 at his Vanguard here. And then we're going to swing 18 at the Vanguard here. Check a PG, he checks a crit. We're going to swing 8 at the rear guard, he takes it. It's going to pitch Bali here to ride. Looking at his hand, it looks like mostly shield here. He commits a grade 2 and swings for 10 here. I elect to guard for a 15 here. He's going to swing for 10, and I take that. I just didn't want to get critted. I elect to stay down here, moving down the GG to commit a Brody. Swinging for 18 here. Oh, at the rear guard. I swung at the rear guard. That's interesting. He was just looking at Brody because, like, obviously, like that's a start deck card that nobody plays. Like, I thought in the moment that it was better than the Steam Fighter, but the Steam Fighter is just better in my deck than the Brody. So I did make that swift change after the locals. He's gonna pitch Stride Fodder here to ride, then Soul Blast, picking up the Bali here. I think the reason he chose not to grade 2 game here was because he felt comfortable with the amount of shield he had in hand and the amount of damage he was at, so he just chose to ride up here, play no business. I guard for a 15 here, again just trying to stay at low damage. He swings at Brody. Which I do elect to guard here, just to try and keep it on the field, even though I know it's going to get spun, but I like to try and keep it on the field. Thinking about what I want to pitch here. Pitching a 15. Riding CHRONOJET, Soul Blasting 1 to get our own Bali. switch volley to stride, draw one off the volley. Thinking, I believe, on stride skill. No, I think I chose not to use stride skill in case he gets a defensive here, so I could just attack the volley. I have 2 soul here. Move down the Gungan Ram. I choose to pitch the steam breath here to add Chronojet to my hand. Basically, I was just trying to add follow-up for my next stride turn. That's why I pitched the 15 to ride instead of the steam breath. Calling Upstream Dragon here. Swinging for 23. Guards for 15. Time leaping the upstream. Going in for a GG here. Thinking about where I want to put it. I decided to put the GG behind the Brody to make a better column. Soul Blasting 2. Drawing myself a card. Then I'm going to swing here for 41, I believe. Yeah, 41. Counterblasting 1, time leaping the Gunga Ram back into an Upstream Dragon. Flipping up a next stage. Decides to take the attack here. We get a heal trigger here, which is clutch. We go back to 1. And we get another heal trigger, so we go back to 0, actually. So I'm going to swing here for 35 now. He takes it, gets a defensive. And that column is 23, 28, 38. It's going to be 20k shield to guard that one, unless he elects to take it as well. Calling down a Gunga Ram here, soul charging 1, soul charge a PG, what it looks like. Swing for 38 here. Guards of 15 and a 5, and we de-stride. Strides into Fate Rider here. Tucks our Brody to the bottom of the deck. Makes sense. It's the Interceptor. Calls down a Swirler here. Swings for 13. I actually decided to guard it, just because it was so easy to guard. Time leaping the Swirler here into a Upstream Dragon, giving the 5k to the Upstream Dragon. And we no-guard the Vanguard swing here. He gets the OT, and I immediately remarked, thank God I no-guarded the Vanguard here. Like, I didn't try to, like, 2 to pass it, or, like, triple pass it. So we take our 2 damage here happily, and we get a defensive here. Give the 100 million to the Upstream Dragon. Swings with the Bali here. We guard. And then we take the other hit, get another defensive. Grab a GG here, which I do believe he gets to draw, if I'm not mistaken. Doing things a little bit out of order here, but just for time's sake, guys. As you could see, I already like started my turn. We're going to pitch the Chronojet here to stride into next stage. We're going to time leap the GG back to the bottom of the deck. Again, my theory here was if you got a key defensive here, I could always swing into the Bali. So I'm going to swing for 38 here. Just moved up the grade 1 to the back row. I debated going into Fate Rider here, but my logic was that this play just felt like the better play to make, especially with checking double front trigger. But it just felt like the better play to make here just because I could push so many cards out of his hand with Chronojet's Guard Restrict. So I discard a Brody here in a 15. I decide to swing with a rear guard first, just trying to push him to 4 so my Chronojet attack is lethal, or can potentially become lethal with a critical trigger. He guards with the OT, and then I remark, "That's not in your hand, you checked it, my friend." And then he gets a defensive heal here, which he does heal. He was at 3. So I swing with my other rear guard here. He's debating if he wants to guard it, which he decides to. So that's 38 now, and that's 48. I believe it was 43 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was 43. I get a critical trigger, so that just puts him to 5. And that's the end of my turn. Which we have a plentiful hand of shield here. Pitches Bali here. Goes into Fate Rider. I forget these names, guys. I'm sorry. You know I'm terrible with names. Bot decks the Gungan Ram here. Calls out in the GG here. Soul Blast 2 to draw a card. It's going to swing for 18 here, I believe. I do decide to take it. I get a defensive trigger, which puts me up to 23. He's going to swing, flipping up a jet, or my next stage. Calls up upstream, and I believe he gives the 5k to upstream. Checks a front trigger here, and checks a PG. Just counting numbers here. It's going to swing with the Bali. That is 23 by itself. He has 3 face-up G units, that's 38, plus the front trigger, that's 48. So I take the Bali swing, and then he's going to swing with that guy. I just guard with the overtrigger because I had the overtrigger in my hand. So we're going to stand and draw here. I don't believe I can stride, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe I can, and I'm debating if it's the right play or not. Oh, I know what I do now. Instead of striding, I decide to stay on Jet just for the guard restrict. Because I couldn't stride into another deck stage. Oh, no. I do stride. I stride into Fate Rider. So I counterblast 1. I tuck the swirler here. Call upstream. Swing 23 here at his Vanguard. Guards. Swing here. Gonna be 56 if I'm not mistaken. Which I believe the only way he survives if I don't check a trigger off this drive check, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, he no guards here. Never mind. I think I'm thinking about game 2. Checks a PG as final damage, and we're off to game 2. I think he decided to go first here, if I'm not mistaken. Just speeding it up a little bit for you guys here. But yeah, what I found out from playing through this tournament was that more often than not, like you always stride Fate Rider first, but like even if you feel like you can't kill them, striding next stage, like for your second stride, will more often just decimate their hand, and then you could just basically like get quote unquote get away with whatever and win on your next turn. Which, yes, he goes second here. So we're going to draw off of the Mazer Gear and pass turn. It's going to pitch Steam Breath. Draw off of Mazer Gear. Draw for going second. Calls down a Swirler. Soul charges 1. Attacks with the Swirler. We get a defensive. Pitch Steam Breath here. Ride up to Smoke Gear. Pitching Steam Breath for its ability to grab Jet. Calling down GG here to Soul Blast 2 to draw a card. And we're going to swing with the Smoke Gear. He elects to no pass us, and then we're going to swing for 18. He guards that as well. Pitches CHRONOJET here to ride. Just going to swing with what he has. We elect to no pass him. Gets a heal trigger, but he's at 0 damage. And we elect to guard that as well. Calling on a Brody. Swing for 8 is 8, and then swing for my Vanguard is Vanguard. Drive check on my Brody, and then swing with Brody. Guards with a 5k Swirler here. Passes his turn. Pitches Steam Breath here. This is Soul Blast 1. Grabbing Jet off the ride line. So he did elect to ride up again to his CHRONOJET. Again, he's at low damage, so I guess if he really didn't want to play the grade 2 game, he felt comfortable enough to where it's like I could just ride up, do my stride turn, and like survive your stride turn pretty well. He debates whether or not to give it all to Vanguard. He chooses a rear guard and checks a Bali. And I just elect to guard that swing, staying at 1 damage here, which was kind of awkward, but I just wanted to make sure I could survive his first stride. Grab Bali here from the ride line, and then we're going to use Bali to stride. Stride and then ride. So I do some like weird things here to make sure I can get my 4 attacks to where they can hit. But it was all in the name of science. So we call down a CHRONOJET here to swing for 13. Guards with 15 here. Then we're gonna swing. Time leap the GG in the back row, which was technically a misplay. I even remarked it after I did it that it was a misplay. I should have swung boosted, but he guarded with a 15 anyways, so our misplay wasn't technically punished. But guys, if you're gonna time leap something, make sure you used it before you time leaped it. He no guards here. We check 2 Gungan Rams and a crit. We give it all to our upstream dragon. Gonna swing here for 35, I believe. And right now my Brody's just 13. Gets a defensive trigger here. Calling down a Gungan Ram, which arguably I should have given the trigger to Brody. I don't know what honestly I don't know what I was thinking. I think in the moment I thought Brody would be bigger, but this column is just 23. But he guards with another 15 here. I'm assuming that's the only shield he has in hand. Discards Bali here to stride, tucks our Brody off the stride line, and then draws off of Bali. Soul charges off Gungaram. Doesn't seem to be like a chill charge trigger. Swing with the upstream here. I guard off on the Gungarams. He time warps into a GG here, which I believe he's able to proc. Yeah, he's able to proc that. No problem. So that's a 13k booster behind the Jet. That's a 26k line, 31k line. Counterblast, G-Flip. I was just checking his soul. He's gonna swing here. We elect to no guard. He checks a front trigger here. So he's gonna swing for the 31-41 here. And then the other column is 25-35. So I take it, power to my Vanguard, and then it's just 15, so I burn the 15. And I believe he goes into... Yeah, he goes for the GG. Which he still had the soul, and he drew for the GG. So we pitch CHRONOJET here, stride into next stage. Counterblast 1, put the GG on the bottom of his deck. I just didn't want him to have a Vanguard booster. Call down a Bali, call down a Brody, call down a Gungaram, soul charging 1 off the Gungaram. And we're going to swing for 38 here, which he does decide to PG. First check. Second check is a heal trigger, which doesn't go off, but we give the power to my Vanguard booster. And I'm going to counterblast 2, basically like ditching my drive check. We're going to go restand CHRONOJET here, and I'm going to swing with CHRONOJET here. This is 26, 36, 51, I believe, and I checked the crit, and he was telling me that he could basically guard everything else, but he couldn't guard the CHRONOJET. So that's a swift 2-0 in the mirror. Granted, I did have a slight advantage because I did get to first stride first in both games. Like, again, your next stage coupled with your CHRONOJET's like GB2 ability is like just a hell of a push turn, which arguably he could have fought for first stride, but I felt like he was in, like, for him it looked like he was in a more comfortable position to whereas he didn't have to, and he would have just kept more cards that way. But anyways guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I am trying to set up streams, discussion streams, to whereas I'm playing Deer Days, like ranked Deer Days in the back while we discuss different Vanguard topics on Sundays. So as you can see, there was no discussion stream this Sunday. It was kind of weird because I had to make a new account to whereas like I basically have to start over in my Deer Days. So like I have the DLC, I have the set 6 cards, I just have to like finish the story so I'm able to play. So like I'm able to play ranked and not look like, because I don't want to play the story in front of you guys because, you know, it's pretty boring. Like I want to fight against like semi-competent people and not like dumb CPUs. But anyways guys, that is all. Later.